Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of The Mandalorian Season 2 on Disney+. And I enjoyed this season more than the first season. Not to say that the first season was bad, but it had the problem of, okay, the plot was pretty much at the beginning, at the end, then you kind of had some episodic episodes in there in between before kind of linking back up. This season really did a great job of interweaving the episodic content within the plot a lot better. It flowed very well in my opinion, and I rather enjoyed seeing what was going on. It didn't feel like, okay, more kind of side quest-ish territory, whereas in a video game you're like, okay, here's the main quest, and then you like go off and do side quests, and they're interesting. But sometimes it's just like, that's like barely connected to what's going on. Here, it's always moving towards the goal of getting to the next point in the plot and to get to certain spaces. Also, I loved the ending of this season and cannot wait for more. Mainly because of how awesome the ending episode was. But let us get into the overall arching plot is, okay, we got to the end. The Mandalorian Din was given his task of returning the child to his people, the Jedi. And that's the overarching thing of what we're trying to do this season. So he's like, alright, I kind of need to figure out how to do that. I need to get in contact with some Mandalorians. So the first episode deals with that. He goes to pretty much this dude who's in this fighting ring to try and get some more information of where there could possibly be like another convert of Mandalorians or whatnot. And we see like some Gamorrean guards, Gamorreans fighting in a ring, and that was pretty cool. But the dude's like, nah, I'm not gonna give you any shit. I'm gonna just pretty much take your Beskar armor. And the child's like, oh shit's going real. Locks himself up as the Mando has a pretty awesome fight, and then pretty much takes the dude and like, tell me what... The dude tries to escape, but he's able to pretty much hang him over a pole. He's like, tell me what I need to know. Tatooine. Let's see. Mos Pelgo. Go there. It's like, alright, cool. And he's like, but the thing is, he wanted an assurance that he wouldn't kill him. He's like, he won't die by my hand. And the thing is, he was pretty much gonna like, fuck him up, fuck the kid up, so he shot at the light, and these eyes that we see are creatures, and they're like, shit. It's like, yeah, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, and you won the stupid prize. So, we get off to Tatooine, we find the harbor master woman again. She's like, oh yeah, and everybody's just like, yeah, the kid. She's like, alright, so what you doing? It's like, well, I need to go and check out to see if there's any Mandalorians in the air. Mos Pelgo? How's that kind of shaking out? She's like, well, we need to kind of like map. It's like, it was kind of like wiped out, so it should be about right here. So he goes off, and he pretty much ambles in like it's an old western ghost town. And he, of course, gets in their canteen. He's like, hey, you see anybody like me? And someone comes in pretty much wearing Boba Fett's armor. It's like, okay, this is going to be kind of interesting. And he, of course, takes off the helmet, so he's not a true Mandalorian. We get the rundown of who this guy is. He is Cobb Vanth, pretty much the marshal of the town, and he's been pretty much protecting it ever since, like, the Empire fell. Now, granted, this is 5 years after that, but he's like, it was barely done, and this mining company pretty much came in and started taking out some people, and pretty much turning them to slaves. He was able to kind of get out with some kind of crystals from there, and he's like wandering the desert, get picked up by some Jawas, and like, hey, we kind of want those things. And he saw that they had Boba Fett's armor, so he came back in, used it, and kind of cleaned up the town. Now, of course, Din is like, give me the armor. They're about to pretty much fight for it, and then we see this giant kind of, if you've ever been into B movies, it's kind of like a graboid. You know, Tremors kind of thing, Sandworm, Arrakis, Dune kind of stuff. It's like, what the hell? And I'm thinking, that's probably going to be this, seeing a crate dragon. It's like, yeah, okay. And we find out that it's pretty much been taking banthas and fucking up with their whole kind of shit. So they're like, alright, let's go and take it out. So they pretty much start on their little quest because it's what he does. He finds problems, he solves them, and he usually gets help and goes along the way. It's that kind of sharing and caring kind of thing. He helps people out, they help him out. And it's a really... Even though you would think it's like, dude, this guy cannot get like 5 feet from someplace before he pretty much accepts a side quest that kind of has to derail his stuff. It kind of derails it, but not. It shows his character, what he tries to do, and kind of his changes along the way. A lot within this season as well, because we see him being more kind of open and not as much of an asshole as the first season went on. Being like, because that's how his taking care of the child and thinking of other people has kind of changed him. Well, they run into some Tusken Raiders, and we've seen that the Mandalorian is really well versed with the Tusken Raiders. We'd seen that in season 1, but we get more as he understands their language and really gets into conversing with them. Cobb's like, I don't trust them. They keep taking out our people. I was like, you keep taking out their shit. They offer him something to drink. He's like, I'm not going to do that. And they pretty much have some flaringness, but they're like, whatever, fine. He's able to pretty much be like, I can take you all out if I need to. But the thing is, we need the Tusken Raiders, and we need the people at the settlement to effectively take out this crate dragon. We see that they've been like kind of like feeding it to pretty much keep it on the down low. And evidently it fucking like ate a Sarlacc. And has made its home in a fucking Sarlacc. It's like, god damn, that thing is fucking nuts. So, they're pretty much trying to be like, alright, how are we gonna fucking kill this thing? Let's kind of like use explosives under its belly. So, they come up with that kind of plan. They get the people in town involved. Of course, we get some tempers flaring and everything with like transporting the explosives and everything. But they're able to pretty much get it, bury the explosives kind of like outside of the cave's entrance, and they pretty much get the crate dragon to kind of come outside. The downside comes into effect is they blow those explosives, but it doesn't do as much damage as they need to for the underbelly of the crate dragon. So it starts fucking going off. It's like spewing acid and killing people like that. So they're pretty much trying to figure out what to do, and Din gets the idea of taking pretty much a loaded bantha with explosives, have it fucking swallow it, and deal with it that way. We also had seen that like Cobb, he is holding his own and pretty much utilizing Boba Fett's armor as effectively as he can. But Din, of course, gets swallowed with the bantha, but is able to use his shock rifle. Well, his rifle that can do shock and disintegration gets out, blows the detonator, and it kills the dragon. It's like me explosions, like holy shit, man! As of course the child is watching on and be like, oh fuck. So we see that the Tusken, of course, the whole deal was that the Tuskens would pretty much get the body of the crate dragon because sustenance. They also get like this giant pearl fucking thing, and they would not break the peace with the settlement unless they broke it first. So, pretty good deal. Well, he got no information on Mandalorians, but he was able to get Boba Fett's armor, and Cobb's like, well, I hope we meet again. He's like, so do I. I'm like, that's pretty cool. And Timothy Oliphant did a really good job as Cobb Vanth. That's a really big kind of positive that I can say about this. Even though you've got all these people just like playing these characters, you never feel like anyone's kind of phoning it in. He did a really good job of selling this kind of martial dude who plays the kind of typical one that has done some weird and you would think cowardly kind of things, but is kind of trying to make up for it to try and help out their town. And when push comes to shove, actively acts the role that they've taken on. In this case, the marshal, and also gives up Boba Fett's armor, which is a tactically advantaged piece, a tactical advantage kind of armament. That is like, all right, I'll deal with this, and we'll deal with it, and deal with these problems on our own. So Din kind of goes back off to Mos Eisley to kind of figure out the next plan, as we see somebody looking at him on a dune. It's like, oh god, turns around and we see that they look like Jango Fett. It's like, that's probably Boba Fett. Well, he gets back, and the thing is, the harbor lady is like, okay, I kind of have a lead on Mandalorians, but you gotta take a passenger. and you can't do hyperspace. And they're like, alright, fine, gotta get to Trask. Frog Lady, reason is because of her eggs. I'm like, okay, that makes total sense. Hyperspace would probably do something that would make it not work. And this is like her last chance of like having her family line work. So she's got to get these eggs to Trask, because that's where her husband is. He has the information on the Mandalorians, and he could fertilize the eggs. So we have to do this. We have to explain that these eggs are unfertilized, because for some odd fucking reason, the child is like gung-ho for these goddamn things. It's like baby crack to this thing. It's like he's just going at him, and the man was like, no, stop that. So before you start freaking out, it's like, he's eating babies. They're not fertilized yet. Alright? But he's still going gung-ho. It's like, okay. They do it more for comedic effect and just because it's a hungry baby and it's figuring out what kind of food to eat. Again. But that's also probably setting up his impulsive nature and his stubbornness to not listen to Din about, like, just don't fucking do this because we need to make sure that this fucking works. So, they pretty much are flying through. Like, alright, hopefully this works out. I normally don't do this. But then they get pretty much pursued by X-Wings from the New Republic because that whole thing with the prisoner transport has come back to bite the Mando in the ass. They're like, hey, stop. And he, of course, starts flying away. He gets, of course, some damage. They crash land on this ice kind of planet and crash through some more ice and completely fuck his shit up. His ship up. Ship and shit up. And, of course, Frog Lady's amphibian and like freezing, and she doesn't want her eggs to pretty much get frozen as well. And he's like, listen, I don't know what else I can do. She's like, please, help me out. You need to do this. This is part of your... Is it the Mando way to give up? Like, this is fine, I'll do this. And he's, of course, doing kind of stuff. Of course, the child is like, hey, she kind of went off. It's like, God damn it. Stay motherfucking shit. Of course, they go through, and Frog Lady has found this kind of like hot spring kind of place, put in her eggs and everything. He's like, listen, you don't kind of run off with that. Of course, the child runs off, sees some more eggs, pretty much like cracks one open and eats kind of a spider thing, starts freaking out because the spiders start hatching, and they have to figure out how to deal with all these giant spiders. Well, some of them are pretty much the size of the child, but then we got this like big honking motherfucker that comes out and they're like, I want to eat your shit. And then the man was like, how about no, you motherfucker? And of course we see a chase sequence as they get back to the ship, but the thing is, the ship is compromised. So they get in, figure out kind of what's going on. They kind of like lock themselves in, but of course the New Republic guys come in and start blaster firing and like save him. And he's like, alright, listen, just turn on your transponder. He's like, hey, you want to help? I was like, how about you turn on your transponder and we don't blast you out of the sky? They pretty much are like, alright, I understand that you were part of that prison transport hoopla, but the thing is, you captured 3 people, Mayfeld included, he will come back, and you tried to protect that guard, so we're going to look the other way this time. It's like, okay, yeah, that's cool. So, since his ship's fucked up, he decides to pretty much make sure that it is pressurized and fix the cockpit, get up, and pretty much limp to Trask. That's what they do. We get a nice kind of reunion with the Frog Lady and her husband, and they go off to kind of do their kind of stuff. The husband leads him to a bar place to get information. The dude's like, hey, I need this seat. Buy something. He's like, give me some chatter for the kid, and I'd like some information about Mandos. Like, okay. Talks to this one Quarren dude. He's like, yeah, I'll take you to the Mandos. Of course, the child is kind of like messing with the chowder, and of course, one of these little squiggly things is on it. He's like, and then Din's like, don't play with your food. He's like, bitch, the food's playing with me. So they're pretty much on this Quarren's boat now, transporting a Mamacore. Mamacore? That's kind of what it sounded like or saw like. And pretty much like, hey, screw it. And they like punt the child's bassinet thing, Bram, in there. And Din's like, fuck! And dives in after it. And of course, they're pretty much trying to kill him to get his Beskar armor. But, in the nick of time, 3 Mandos pop up, and we are introduced to Bo-Katan, Casca, I think, and Axe. And it's like, alright, cool. Of course, she's from, like, the Clone Wars, dealing with everything on Mandalore. Now, granted, I haven't watched those but I still recognize, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty big kind of cameo there. So, they, of course, take off their helmets, and he's like, why are you doing that? Mandalorians don't do that. And they're like, oh, okay, he's a child of the Watch. Evidently, a religious kind of zealot order very preoccupied with following the ancient way, the Mandalore. And she's like, no, we can take off our helmets and stuff. What the hell? Of course, he's like, I ain't helping or getting help from you guys, and kind of screws off. Of course, the Quarren's brother's like, screw you, man. But in the nick of time, Bo-Katan and the rest of the Mandos pop up and be like, alright, we got your ass. He's like, fine, tell me what you need. They, of course, know that the Imperial Remnant is still kind of like looting Mandalore, and they're like, we ain't doing that, so we're going to pretty much take some weapons from their ship and continue on fighting. And of course, in exchange, she'll tell him where he can like find a Jedi. So he's like, alright, fine, I'll help you with this. Leaves the child with the frog lady, and that one actually has its own little story, because when we come back and he gets the child, we see that the eggs have been fertilized, and you'd think, oh, he's pretty much trying to like eat them. But one of them bursts one of the frog people, and he's kind of playing with it. He's like, hey, this is cool. I don't get the kind of feeling that he was trying to like eat the kid. He was feeling like, oh yeah. Kristen's like, no, not having any more pets. But that's jumping ahead. So him and the Mandalorians pretty much go hambo on this ship and are able to like do some badass shooting and taking out all of these Imperial stormtroopers and pretty much getting control of the ship, leaving pretty much the cockpit. The captain's like, all right, let's pretty much screw this shit up. And they got the weapons, but Bo-Katan wants the ship as well. Gideon is like, I'm not gonna help you guys, you're gonna fuck on your own. So the captain's pretty much getting ready to like tank the thing into the water, but they're able to get there. She of course wants information on where Moff Gideon is and the Darksaber, because in order to effectively rule Mandalore, you need the Darksaber. He's like, eat me! And then pretty much electric capsule thing. He kills himself with essentially something similar to a cyanide capsule. They've got their stuff, and he's like, you're really pounding my shit in with this. Pretty much changing the terms of the deal, but I can't help you anymore. She, of course, says that the offer is still there should it be needed, and tells him to go, let's see here. To go find Ahsoka Tano on Corvus. And it's like, oh shit, that's a pretty big name drop. While this is going on, the Razor Crest has been repaired by a Mon Cal dude, and he of course goes get the child, and they find that the repairs are less than adequate. So he decides to then stop off on Navarro to get true and proper repairs. Of course, he checks in with Grief and Cara Dune, who is now the marshal of what's going on, and they're like, we kind of have a problem there. I know your ship's going to need help, so it's a kind of like give and take kind of thing. So there's like this Imperial base that they kind of want to take out and make sure that the planet is pretty much safe from all kind of interference, and that it would pretty much turn into a trade hub. Mando's like, alright, fine. Leaves the child, and it's funny because Grief's like, I kind of like the kid. Decides to leave him at one of the school places that's going on. The protocol droid's teaching a class, and he's just like sitting at a desk, like, yeah. Of course, there's this one kid eating macaroons, and I'm like, he's like, hey, can I have some? Asks it without using words or anything, because like, no. And then of course he like force pulls them out, and he just like eat them throughout the rest of the episode. I'm like, it's always annoying. I can understand, especially in like college, eating during class, but it is distracting, and that kid is pretty much almost 24/7 needs to eat shit. So that's kind of what happens. So they're able to get to the base. They take actually the first bounty that the Mando we see him bringing into the series, that kind of blue dude. He of course is complaining the whole way. He's got like 350 years on his debt or whatnot, and Grief's like, yeah, if you do this shit with us, we'll kind of leave that shit off. They get into the base, but they find that there's a lot more Imperials in there than what they were thinking, and it's more than just a kind of like run-of-the-mill kind of like supply depot kind of place. There's some weird fucking shit going on in there. So they're able to pretty much turn off the cooling system to pretty much have the lava destroy it. But as they're running through, they find that there's something going on with the child. Dr. Pershing is doing stuff with clones, and that his M count, midichlorians, that he's like some kind of donor trying to make sure that clone bodies, I think, can handle the Force. This is leading into connecting it with all of Palpatine's clone bodies and everything going on in the sequel trilogy, I believe. So I'm like, that's a nice connection there. But of course, things are blowing up. They need to get out. And of course, Mando kind of breaks off from them, and we see that he goes back to make sure that he can get to the kid because of what's going on here. Cara, Grief, and Blue Dude get into this transport and pretty much like book it out. They have to fuck around with like some speeder bike assholes, but then TIE fighters start coming in at them. But of course, we have seen that the Razor Crest is back and operational, and he takes out those TIE fighters like ain't nobody's business, and it's awesome. Then of course, the child is with him as well, burping up his macaroons because of all the high G maneuvers and everything. He's like, I gotta like take care of this kid, but I gotta take care of something in here. But see you guys next time, pretty much. And they're like, all right, cool. Of course, Kara is also approached by someone of the New Republic, pretty much just hashing out details of what's going on out here because the New Republic's like, there's some weird shit going on out here. Offering her pretty much a New Republic kind of marshal's badge, of course, asking her about what happened on Alderaan and that she lost everybody. So he is ready to go and look for Ahsoka Tano, and we see that the next episode is, I like the beginning of it because it essentially is almost like a horror movie because Ahsoka is like taking out these motherfuckers like ain't nobody's business, and it's really horror movie-esque, and she's badass. Rosario Dawson does a very good job of portraying Ahsoka Tano as she is pretty much talking with the magistrate and like, I want your info. And of course, this magistrate's got like pretty much an iron fist of what's going on in that town and like screwing with people. So Mando lies down, gets to the town, tries to ask about like Jedi and Ahsoka Tano, and this one is like, fucking stop talking to us. Of course, the rest of the kind of police force, I use that term loosely, takes him to the magistrate. Magistrate's like, hey, I want you to kill Ahsoka Tano. It's like, alright, what are you offering for that? It's like, how about this spear made of Beskar? Like, he says, okay. Like, he kind of is like, I'll look into it. He keeps that very fine line of not saying, I will do it, because he's looking for her as a Jedi. Goes out, does run into her, and we see that Beskar can hold up to a lightsaber. And he's like, wait. Bo-Katan sent me. It's pretty much because of the kid. He's like, better be because of that. And of course, we see that Ahsoka and the child start talking, well, using the Force, and we find out that his name is Grogu. And we find out a lot of important information about him with this, that he was raised at the temple on Coruscant, and that someone had taken him out of Coruscant during the Jedi Purge, and that everything kind of goes a little bit fuzzy, so we don't know who took him out or when, and that he had pretty much hid his powers to survive. But he's like, well, can you train him? And she's like, I don't know. His attachment is really strong to you, but we'll see in the morning. And she pretty much tries to perform exercises. I was like, okay. Doing stuff with the stone. I was like, no, take the stone from me. And of course, before this, we had seen him use the Force to take the little ball thing from the Razor Crest and bring it to himself. And the Mando, of course, takes that with him. And she's like, he's not being receptive. He's like, that's because he's stubborn. Let me try something. And he's like, here, you want the ball? And he's just like, ooh. He's like, Grogu, here's the ball. And he's like, gets it and everything. And she's like, I can't train him. He's too attached to you. And that she's seen what that attachment and that fear and hatred, fear and anger would lead him, so she doesn't want to do that. But she can try and lead him to other Jedi or whatnot if he's able to help her out with taking on the Magistrate. So then, of course, we see this really great action sequence as they pretty much are infiltrating the place. Of course, the Mando's going in. I'm like, yeah, I took her out. No, I didn't. Yeah, she like shows up. It's crazy. So, of course, they're dealing with all the guards and some, like, assassin droids and the magistrate's right-hand man. And they pretty much get into a standoff, but we see that Ahsoka starts fighting the magistrate, who's got the best car, Spear. And they have a pretty good fight scene as they're, like, duking it out. Ahsoka loses one of her lightsabers into the water, but she's able to defeat her and asks her about Grand Admiral Thrawn, who's her master. It's like, ooh, big name drop there, because that's connection with Clone Wars and, of course, Rebels. Well, not Clone Wars. Ahsoka is the Clone Wars / Rebels connection, and then Grand Admiral Thrawn was a big antagonist in Rebels. Again, I've not seen that in all of its entirety, or I've seen, like, bits and pieces of it, but I've kind of kept up with it, so it's, like, nice to have that name drop that Grand Admiral Thrawn is out there doing shit. So, the right-hand man pretty much surrenders. The whole town gets pretty much helped out. We'd seen some people in some kind of, like, weird shock prisons that were pretty much going to get assassinated or killed. Same difference. But the Mando was able to kind of get him out of there. So, he gets that to that point, and they're all trying to figure out what to do. Well, not figure out what to do. She, of course, gives him the best car, Steel Spear, because he kind of helped out. It's like, all right. And she's like, okay, take him to Tython, have him do this whole scene stone, and he'll figure out his destiny there. He'll pick his path, and he might be able to get in contact with a Jedi. It's like, all right, cool. Let's see how this goes. So, let's see. That Ice Planet, Trask, Tano, Tython. Yes. So, that sets them off onto their... Oh, and Navarro. Yeah. There we go. We're on track. So, they have to now get to Tython. They're able to get to the coordinates, and he gets them up there. Let's do this with the windows down, as he, like, jetpacks them up there, and he's like, oh, anything going on with that rock? But then he gets into, like, this force trance where there's a force field kind of protecting him and stopping him from being able to get into him. But the thing is, they have been followed by two people. And the thing is, he also has a tracker on him from Gideon from when his ship was repaired on Navarro. Tatooine, Ice Planet, Trask, Navarro, Ahsoka, Tython. Yes. So, who were the people that were following him? Boba Fett and Fennec. Evidently, Boba Fett had saved her life. They pretty much got into a standoff where Fennec had the child in her sights. He's like, alright, fine, whatever. Tell me what you need. Boba Fett, of course, wants his armor back. He's like, I don't know about that. Of course, Gideon on the standoff, but of course, we see that Gideon sends his forces down to get the child. So, they have to get into a position where they're like, alright, we have to work together to kind of stop this and make sure the kid's safe. So they begin their pitched battle against the stormtroopers. There were some weird tactical decisions made here, because we do get to see that Fennec starts beating wholesale ass, and we learn not to fuck with the Fett in this one, because he is using this kind of Tusken Raider style staff and just beating the fucking shit out of stormtroopers. Yes, I know, you're probably like, that's pretty excessive to say beat the fucking shit out of him, but no, he beats the fucking shit out of him, because I don't know what else you would fucking call it. You're like, raka-taka. So, Boba Fett's able to also get to the Razor Crest and get his armor out, as he's pretty much wrecking wholesale ass as well. Fennec was in a lot of trouble, but the Mando was trying to get to the child, but of course he's locked in his force trance and everything, and it's not really like, he can't really get him out, so he's like, I'm gonna buy you some time. So he goes down and help Fennec. The stormtroopers do set up this like heavy blaster, and they start like blasting her at her, but she's like at this giant boulder, and she rolls down the boulder as her cover. And granted, it makes a funny kind of sequence as it starts like bowling fucking stormtroopers and blows up the blaster thing. But you normally wouldn't do that, because that was mainly her main cover against the blaster fire. It's like, okay, it looked cool, but it's kind of dumb. balances out. You know what I mean? It's not horrendously bad, but I'm like, alright, dude. As she's like beating ass, Mando's kind of helping. Of course, Fett comes out with all of his gear intact, and some more of the ships are kind of like flying off, but he's able to use his rocket to blow up one of them, and it falls into the other. I'm like, he planted on him. No, I was actually aiming for that one. Fuck Fett. Damn it. That's okay, though. But while this is going on, Gideon has launched the Dart Troopers. I'm like, oh, shit. And we find out that those are pretty much droids, and they're able to get Grogu, and they fly off. And before that gets done, the Razor Crest gets fucking atomized by Gideon. It's like, damn it. But he's able to get the Beskar spear, which is important. And he's also able to find the little ball that Grogu likes. And he's like, oh. So Fett's like, alright, we said that we would not let anything happen to the kid, and the kid got fucking jacked, so we're gonna help you get the kid back. And it's like, team up, team up, team up, yeah, yeah, team up, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, they're of course doing stuff on Slave 1, and they have to come up with a plan. The Mando, of course, sends off a message pretty much telling Gideon, I'm getting that kid back. We also see that the kid is in a cell, force pushing around these stormtroopers like ragdolls. He is not happy because this has been one of his fears. And of course he's getting stronger in the force, being able to use it like this, and Gideon's pretty much, yeah, but you kind of reached your limit. Oh, yeah, I just need your blood and stuff like that, and I don't care. Like, cuff him, and you're too young to play with the Darksaber kind of shit, as he gloats and walks away. It's like, bastard, fuck you. Now the Mando has to come up with a plan to save Grogu. He goes to Cara Dune. He's like, alright, there's one Imperial person that I know. That's Mayfield. He, of course, is in the custody of the New Republic. He pretty much figures out everything going on with Cara. He's like, hey, can you get Mayfield out? It's like, why could I? I'd have to do some weird kind of stuff to do that. He's like, they have the kid. And that's all he's got to say, and he gets help from her. Mayfield's like, what? New detail. Follow the marshal. Go. It's like, are you sure about this? Alright. But they're trying to figure out the positioning of Gideon's transport. So, he gets roped into it. He's like, yeah, I could pretty much use my credentials and everything, get in there. Let's go to Morag, where there's a Rhydonium factory. I could do that, get that for you, see how this kind of goes. So, their whole plan is to pretty much take one of the transports, get inside the base, get the information, and get out. Fett would pretty much be like running air support. Fennec and Cara would be the best bets to doing sniper support. And we start seeing Din throughout this season, but mainly in this portion, changing his Mando ways. Mainly because Grogu is in trouble. And those ways, mainly never removing his helmet, start to get in the way of him protecting the kid. So it's this balancing act of, does he adhere to this strict tradition, or does he do what he can to help save the kid? And he decides to do what he can to save the kid. So he dons stormtrooper armor. Now granted, he does it so that way nobody kind of sees him. And they start riding a transport, but they start talking about the kind of stuff. Mayfield's pretty much, I'm a realist. I'm a survivor, man. I gotta do what I gotta do. And this is kind of like a morally questionable kind of stuff going through. They're trying to deliver this, but they're going through all these people, lands that's like occupied, and these pirates trying to keep blowing it up. But Din pretty much has to fight them off and kill some of them because they're pretty much trying to blow them up. Now, granted, they don't like the Empire, but they're dressed like the Empire, and they try and be like, hey, don't fuck with us. It'll break their cover and they won't be able to get into the Imperial base. So it's interesting to have that kind of balancing up. They're able to get into the base because they also get TIE fighter support. Like, alright, cool, fine. They're the only transport that got in. But the thing is, the terminal that he has to get to with the data core stick is in the officer's mess. And Mayfield's like, ah shit, one of my former superior officers is in there. He might recognize me, so I'm not doing it. And the thing is, Din's gonna have to take off his helmet to have the face scan. employees there, it's telling him to do the face scan, and he does it. He takes off the helmet because he needs that information for finding Grogu. So that's a big moment to do that. Of course, the Imperial officer is like, hey, do I know you kind of stuff? And yeah, he's pretty much just bothering him. But then Mayfield comes in. It's like, oh, you're the only two that got in here. Let me buy you a drink. Of course, he's talking about how like the Empire does order and everything like that, and that any cost is worth it, killing all those people that went on in Operation Cinder, Imperials, civilians, all that. Mayfield, even though he talks about not caring and being a survivor and everything, couldn't fucking take it. Shot the dude, set off a whole chain of events where the whole place is buzzing, but they're able to get out, and Mayfield shoots the factory to blow it up because he's like, fuck them for doing that shit. And it was really kind of cool. It's like, alright. So they got the information, and they're getting their plans and ready to go. And we also see that Boba Fett has cleaned up his armor, and it looks really nice. Gotta hand it to him. Costume design, it's fucking on point. Now, granted, it was on point before, but like, that stuff, yeah. So they decide to get pretty much to amp up their forces a little more, kind of the Magnificent Seven route, and they get Bo-Katan and Casca to help them, but not before they have like some shit with Boba Fett, pretty much calling into question if he's actually a Mandalorian, more that it's not his father, it's his donor. He starts fighting this one chick. It's like, they got some shit going on. She's able to kind of hold her own, but Fett, again, you don't want to fuck with Fett. Well, she's like, all right, yeah, this is where Gideon is in the Darksaber. You help me get the kid. That's all I give a shit about. You can have the fucking ship if you want it. It's like, all right, that works with her. They're playing. They go and they're able to find Dr. Pershing, and they take his ship, and they're pretty much going to Trojan horse their way in. And Fett will make it look like they're being attacked. So their thing is they have to take care of the Dark Troopers as well. So their whole plan is that Cara, Fennec, Bo-Katan, Casca will pretty much go towards the bridge. Din will run off as fast as possible to make sure the Dark Troopers don't get out and to blast them out of their bay. So we get some nice fights against the stormtroopers as they're pretty much charging towards the bridge. But see, the thing is, the Dark Trooper thing is on the way to the child, to Grogu. They get in there and they don't see Moff Gideon there, so Bo-Katan's kind of like, what the fuck, where's Gideon? Of course, Din deals with the Dark Troopers. One of them is able to get out, and he has to use the Beskar spear to take it out, which it was a fucking hassle and a half for him to deal with. But he was able to deal with it. It does fuck him up because he's got the helmet to protect him, but it's nuts. Because we've seen him use his head as pretty much a blunt force object against some people in the beginning of this season. So he can take some hits, but not like that motherfucker. So he gets in, and we see that Moff Gideon is holding the Darksaber above the child, above Grogu, and like, I know that Bo-Katan's freaking out right now. He's like, alright, you just take the child and leave the ship right now. But we see that Moff Gideon has other plans as he starts attacking Din. And they have a pretty good fight. It's not like Din's able to overpower him easily. The Moff has some skills, so we can understand kind of how he was able to kind of get the Darksaber. But Din is able to come out on top at the end, but it all falls into Moff Gideon's plan because Bo-Katan wanted to fight Moff Gideon to get the Darksaber to have a cleaner claim on the Mandalorian throne. Because at this point, Din has the cleaner claim on the Mandalorian throne because he won the Darksaber in combat fair and square. But he gets the child, he's able to get to the bridge and gets Moff Gideon up there. He's explaining his plan, and the thing is, Din's like, I'll just fucking give it to you. But of course, it's the power of the story and the legitimacy that it would enable to have that there. But the issue comes into play that the Dark Troopers start coming back onto the ship, and they're pretty much getting ready to. They fly in, and you just see it's like, oh shit, they don't. It took Din a fucking hellacious amount to just deal with one of them, and he's only got one Beskar armament, and they're pretty much trying to knock into the door. And then one of the coolest goddamn things fucking happens. Alright? Little background. I have grown up with Star Wars. Alright? Original trilogy is my jam. I don't hate the prequel trilogy. There's like weird shit that happens in it. I like it. Sequel trilogy. Problems. But Luke Skywalker is one of my heroes. When I was growing up, I wanted to be a Jedi. Right? I still kind of take one of the teachings of the Jedi as I do my shit, but it really heavily informed me in one of those big kind of properties. And of course, Luke Skywalker as that character and his journey as a hero resonated with me. So to see this happen, where they're pretty much having the Dark Troopers getting ready to like bust shit in and come and get them, and then we see an X-Wing fly in, and then we see a dude in a hooded robe with a green lightsaber coming in, and it's like, this is Luke Skywalker. This is, and not just Luke Skywalker, this is Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker, Jedi Master Luke Skywalker coming in. He just starts fucking up these droids like ain't nobody's business. It's what I wanted to see in a continuation, seeing Luke Skywalker be that Jedi, be that hero, be that man that you've seen him throughout all those trials and tribulations, to where he got at the end of Return of the Jedi and was able to help his father come back to the side of the light. And this motherfucker comes in and does what he needs to do to help these people, to help Grogu, because it looks like because Grogu is like looking and like trying to reach out to him through the camera system, because evidently he was who got in contact. Now granted, how this kind of shakes out kind of leaves questions of like why Grogu wasn't like in the stuff with the sequel trilogies and all that, because that would have been fucking awesome. But we see him do shit essentially like the opposite parallel of Darth Vader in Rogue One, where Vader, you like, holy shit, it's like a horror movie where Vader's doing all this stuff, but this is like the opposite end, because we're like, it's the hero, he's coming in to help the people, and he just fucking using the Force like the master that he is, smashing them into things, and like using his lightsaber like all get out, and fucking using Crush to crush one of the droids, and then Din's like, open it, it's a Jedi, and they're like, holy shit, it's a Jedi, and they open and we see like the smoke kind of clear, he turns it off, and of course we see that it's digitally done, and Mark Hamill does the voice. He's like, I'm here for Grogu, and of course it comes to like this hell of an emotional one. This is a great ending, but it's still, you feel it, because Din wants him to go with his kind, but he loves the kid, and the kid loves him, because Luke's telling him, he's like, yeah, but you need to tell him to go. He wants your permission. As we see Grogu, like, at his leg, just, like, hugging him and everything. And he's like, you can go, kid. He's like, alright, fine. He, like, lifts him. He takes, and an important thing is, he takes off the helmet. It's like, it's okay, man. We'll see each other again. As the kid's touching his face and everything, and we see him getting teary-eyed. It's like, yeah, that's good. Because it's not just what he's saying. He's like, I understand. We'll see each other again. Go and learn to be a Jedi. Don't worry. We will see each other again. It's like he's telling Grogu that, and he's also telling himself that. And the thing is, Pedro Pascal fucking sells that shit. Because you can feel it from him. You can see him. He's getting teary-eyed because that's his kid going on. And Grogu walks over. He's kind of a little bit hesitant with Luke. But then R2 fucking D2 pops up. And we see them just fucking click. And it's great because we didn't get a lot of R2-D2 in the sequel trilogy. And we just see R2-D2 as well. Yeah. It's like, yeah, I'll protect the child with my life, man. And that's Luke. He's not going to forcibly take a child. He's like, I'm here for a kid. It's like, alright, go with me. You want your permission, man. It does that. It's like, yeah, I'll protect the kid with my life, man. And then he holds him. He takes him. And we see him looking on, teary-eyed, as the elevator closes. And R2 and Luke go off with Grogu. And it's like, holy shit, man. That fucking ending. Ugh. And we need fucking Din to get a ship. Because his was fucking atomized. But you fucking feel it, man. They nailed it. It's hard to do that shit. Because you need to be execution of that has to be on point. From the digital effects to making the double look like age-appropriate Luke Skywalker with Mark Hamill's voice, him going through and doing everything, and the content of like what the writers have done and the actors to sell it, and they just fucking nailed it, because it's like, we had this journey, and it's like, how's it gonna feel when he does find a Jedi? And of course, it's great to have the Jedi be Luke Skywalker and have them go off and be like, yeah. And it's a circular kind of thing, because Luke came to Master Yoda for instruction, and now Luke has found someone similar to Yoda, powerful in the Force, same species. It's like, student has become the master and must pass along his teachings to another new student. And it's just, that's awesome, and that's Star Wars shit right there. Good Star Wars shit. And I was just like, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, man. It just worked so goddamn well. And I'm like, yeah, I'd pretty much just have this to like watch that kind of stuff and watch Grogu be baby Grogu doing all this kind of stuff all the time. I'm like, I want that fucking Blu-ray, Disney. Need it. So that way I can pop it in whenever. Let's see here. So that's pretty much the main kind of stuff of how that kind of ends. They pretty much leave it off there. The Din has been successful in that. We'll kind of see where he kind of goes in the next season. When they will do that next season. Because we've gotten such a great kind of ending for these characters, but we'll see what they kind of end off with. How will they cross paths again? What'll happen? And I want to see all the other characters. I'm glad we'll be seeing stuff with Ahsoka Tano, and of course Boba Fett as well. All different kind of other kind of spin-offs, because I've heard that they're also going to do these spin-offs leading to like a climactic kind of event. So we'll see how that works out, because this ending, we got kind of an after credits thing as well, where we see Fennec and Boba Fett on Tatooine, and they kill Bibba Fortuna, and Fett is pretty much sitting on the throne, pretty much taking over like Jabba the Hutt's kind of place. So we'll kind of see where that goes, because evidently we are not getting a new season of The Mandalorian this year, but we're getting like the Book of Boba Fett, starting off the kind of like spin-off kind of things going on, which I wouldn't mind if they start introducing those kind of things, where you essentially would have more time to devote to certain seasons, because you would have kind of filler things. It would almost be like a Call of Duty model, which, by the way, you don't need to annualize certain things like Call of Duty's, okay? Where you might get one season of one show, and then, boop, next year you get another season of another show, and that way they've got an ample enough time to kind of deal with everything. But I'm like, I really love this season, and especially the end. Now, granted, everything before the end was good too, and great, but that ending fucking solidified it, and I'm like, I felt like I was watching Star Wars again. Now, granted, I had binged like the first one, and now we've got the second one. So binging, of course, it's just like, this is what Star Wars is. These people get it. It's like, yeah, fuck yeah, that ending, man, fucking great. Loved it. So I can't wait to see kind of what else goes on, see where the other characters shake out. I just hope that they're able to understand the quality and the consistency, and sometimes to figure out when a story ends like this one. This kind of path, he ended it getting Grogu to the Jedi Master. That's a good end to that. Now, there's other stories that can come from this ending as well. It doesn't all have to be a continuous and then cliffhanger kind of thing. You always have to watch out for that in stories. There can be ends and then new beginnings to figure out where that goes. Yeah. So those are my opinions on this season. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.